Paradox released the very last proper update for Imperator Rome in 2021, and that is also when the game died. Well, that is what I would say if this game didn't have one of the most amazing modding communities. Today I want to take a moment to show you some of the best total conversion mods that you can jump right into if you're playing with the thought of jumping into Imperator Rome. The mods that you will learn about in this video will offer an unbelievable breadth of content, but let me just tell you that they don't just improve the game as it exists, they can bring you into different time periods and maybe even into completely different worlds. Let's start with a one mod that is unequivocally the reason for the fact that Imperator Rome is still flourishing: Imperator Invictus. Imperator Invictus is by far the most subscribed mod of Imperator Rome, and well, it should be obvious why that is. This is the one mod pack that tries its very best to create a situation where all of the gaps that were left behind when Imperator was no longer supported are filled with content. Not only have the modders created an improved AI that makes it more interesting to play the game itself, but they have also created over 200 plus new generic events, making it so that you see a lot more variance. Imperator Invictus is the be-all and end-all of Imperator Rome, because it tries to fill all of the gaps left behind when the game was left alone. Now, for example, what this means is that the map has been slightly expanded. You will see more interesting locations and generally just a more beautiful map. Now, practically speaking, this means a ton of things. For example, they have reworked the AI to be much more improved. They have added unbelievable amounts of mission trees. Indeed, the map that you can see right here shows you which tags have gotten new mission trees, and yeah, it's a ton of them. So that means that you can always jump into a new playthrough and have something to do, rather than simply having to hunt down the generic mission trees that vanilla gives you. On top of that, they have also reworked the map, adding more navigable rivers, new impassable mountain ranges, and of course, adding several wonders, including 3D models all over the ancient world. If we want to compare Imperator Rome Vanilla with Imperator Rome Invictus, I think the best way to put it is that this is just Imperator Plus. When you try out the mod, you will find that there are a couple of rebalances going on, both for buildings, military units, wonders, laws, and so on. This has a really cool effect. The game, even if you're a veteran in Imperator Rome that played the game all the way until it was abandoned, you will still find some new stuff, and you will have to learn mechanics that you already thought you were familiar with. For example, while in vanilla, food supplies for your provinces are generated statically throughout the entire year, you're looking at basically changes between seasons here. In the summer, your provinces will be gathering grain, and then of course in the winter they will be losing it. They also added of course new trade goods. They made it so that there will be more historical decisions, more historical events, and for example a historical but dynamic Parthian invasion, meaning that the world is just a bit more alive. There's a lot more going on, and if you are playing for a solid 200-300 years, you will find that there's a lot to do even all the way back then. But let's get to the meat of it. What the hell is going on with the mission trees? You already saw the map. I mean, there's a lot to go around, and well, let me give you some advice when it comes to where you might want to play. I personally can only really advise playing in Cyrenaica. They are governors under Ptolemaic Egypt, and they are so damn interesting. They have a whole, I kid you not, of 6 new mission trees, making it so that you can build your little empire, and I think, much more interestingly, in a location that isn't all that hospitable. This mod, all in all, is honestly insane, because, well, it does exactly what it says on the tin. If you were interested in Imperator Rome, but you were saying there's no flavor, there's not enough going on, there's no variation in, for example, events, but also in what the activity does, then this is exactly what you want to be playing with. Quite frankly, and I still think that vanilla is actually a really good game at this point, this right here should be mandatory. What I personally especially love, because I just love the underlying system, is the fact that this mod also adds a ton of new holy sites, a ton of new treasures, and of course, everything related to new deities. Considering the size of this mod, there is something about this that really baffles me. I literally have nothing negative to say about it. Now, don't get me wrong here, I don't ever really say negative things about mods because they are made by modders. They are the heartblood of this community. They are putting an incredible amount of work into something that they don't have to do. But, of course, oftentimes design decisions can be questionable, it can be a bit tedious to play certain things, and so on. Imperator Invictus has none of this. It really and absolutely is a pure positive. With us now being roughly 3 years after official support for Imperator Rome ceased, it has to be said, Imperator Invictus is for Imperator what HBM, HFM, GFM and all the other Victoria 2 mods are for Victoria 2. Alright, but let's move on from me of course deservedly praising Imperator Invictus to another mod that I also found to be incredibly interesting. A mod that fascinates me because I love the franchise and that you may also love. I am talking about this mod right here, Elder Scrolls First Age. I feel like this mod is actually kind of underrated. There is of course not nearly as much flavor, not nearly as much insane work as Imperator Invictus in it, but this is a pretty interesting scenario for a game like Imperator Rome. Instead of taking you into the second era of Elder Scrolls Online or the third or the fourth era of the mainline games of Elder Scrolls, it's taking you directly into the First Age, which is quite unique because, well, this is before the Alessian Revolt. This is while Umariel the Feathered is still ruling in the Imperial City. And I think it's a pretty good starting point because there are so many points of divergence. You can of course start in any of the regions of Tamriel, you can play any of the races that were here in the First Age. This mod is extremely unique. It does come with a couple of amazing assets that are extremely detailed and just absolutely lovable. Although personally my favorite thing about this entire setup here I think is just how well Elder Scrolls actually works with the population system of Imperator Rome. Building the Tamrielic Empire has never felt this good. Now moving on from this mod, let's go to one of the very first Imperator mods that was gone for quite some time, the Bronze Age mod. This mod is an old mod that for some time left Imperator Rome and then was brought back by other modders that revived it and indeed made it great again. There's an expanded technology tree, they added lots of formables, at least one per tag, so that you always have something to do when you play the mod. They have also already added custom missions and decisions for certain countries so that you can explore the Bronze Age from an interesting angle. You can play the Mesopotamian city-states, build up Greece, or indeed form Egypt. There is also an additional drought mechanic and more trade goods just so that you have more to explore on the mechanical side as well. Like I said, this is an impressive mod without a doubt. Now next up is Lord of the Rings. I really love this mod just because the map is so gorgeous. Everything here when it comes to the 3D assets as well as the general assets within the game is absolutely gorgeous. They have added custom missions for several nations as well, and I personally would highly recommend playing Gondor as there is so much that you will be doing as you will be overcoming evil in the name of the Gondorian people. I would recommend that you give this mod a shot because I think there's a lot that you can do here that CK3 can't do and vice versa. Alright, but last but very much not least, we have a mod that brings you into the Middle Ages. Yes, you could play CK3, but you could also play Imperator Rome, have population, have empires, and so on. The mod Medieval 1066 actually works together with Invictus if you choose to download that version, and while it is still relatively bare bones while it comes to, for example, mission trees, you are already looking at a lot of content. The map, the world, and everything going on is set up quite beautifully, and you can see centralized empires such as, for example, the Byzantines right here, and very decentralized empires like the Holy Roman Empire. This is such a cool idea, and I'm definitely going to dive into this at least once on the channel right here. I would recommend that you do the same because, well, this is an unbelievable amount of work yet again. I think it is fair to say that all of the mods that you have just heard about, both the long explanations and the short explanations, are worth checking out. Make sure to take a look at the links in the description because, again, whatever might appeal to you, this is definitely worth it. If you're in it just for, you know, some playtime in antiquity, make sure to check out Invictus and the Bronze Age. Other than that, Tamriel, the Middle Ages, and Lord of the Rings await for sure. All of these are mods that should give you a great experience with a game that otherwise doesn't see any new content. I mean, seriously, it has been 3 years since the last proper update from the developers for Imperator Rome, and this modding community is unstoppable.